Hi there, I'm Emma, and this is Joe.
Hello.
And welcome to the weird and wonderful world of the Cards, the Universe, and Everything cast. Each episode, we'll be giving you a sneak peek at what's in the cards for Cards, the Universe, and Everything. We'll fill in your brain with random facts and utter rubbish. Like, for example, Joe, did you know that while Harry Houdini was an amazing magician, he was also a debunker of spiritualists? He put out like a $10,000 reward for any psychic who could come and like actually prove something he couldn't debunk.
Oh, wow.
Nobody ever claimed that in his life. And in case you haven't guessed by that smooth segue, this episode is on Hoaxes and Cons.
Alright, this has been one. I know I seem to say it every episode, but this is a great collection. I'm such a sucker for just like things that people have believed, and like I think that's why last episode I picked lemons, just because of all the things that people say about them, and just to hear about how people have been deceived and stuff.
This is easily one of my favourite collections, full stop. Like, I do put Hoaxes and Cons in all my, like, regular, like, Emma-themed decks. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's really, it's a nice one, because there's not a lot of synergy between them as a collection, so it's really nice to see them just, like, pop up here and there, and because of the nature of the card, you're just like, what are you doing in this Life on Land deck? Does that fit? Oh, yeah, it does.
And we've picked this because we've got two new Hoaxes and Cons cards out this week. We've got Smell-O-Vision and Spaghetti Tree. Smell-O-Vision's a really interesting one, right? Because the card is based on like a BBC prank from the 60s where they tried to convince people they were broadcasting aromas and that you could smell through the television. Yeah. But they got loads of calls from people being like, yeah, I could smell onions.
Yeah, I could definitely smell
even though there's nothing, so it's like the power of suggestion. But the cool thing about it is that like there has been a history of attempts. When Fantasia came out, like the Disney film in the 40s, they wanted to like pump the smell of like patchouli and incense and stuff into cinemas, and it didn't catch on.
Oh, right, yeah. Cool. We've got Spaghetti Tree. Basically did a small documentary on the growing of spaghetti on trees. I just found it quite a funny one because obviously back then, I think it's 1950s, and apparently pasta wasn't really everyday kind of dish. Like spaghetti would come in a tin. And it was also because the person who did the reporting on it, he was quite a well-known reporter, so people really did like fall into it and believe it straight away. One of the quotes from the documentary that I watched, and we'll put a link in the description for this because it's brilliant. It was one of the mildest winters in living memory and has resulted in an exceptionally heavy spaghetti crop. I thought that kind of like really summed up the whole situation quite well. It's just brilliant. Apparently people the next day were calling in and inquiring about spaghetti cultivation. The generic replies to that was to place a sprig of spaghetti in a tin of tomato sauce and hope for the best.
Oh my god.
Which seems like a very fitting ending for it. It's just it's a fantastic card. And that's why I love Hoaxes and Cons, because it's just full of everything.
Cool. So one of the things we thought we'd do as well, now that we've had a look at our two new cards, would be to look at our favourite Hoaxes and Cons. Joe, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'd love to go first. For me, the first one, I'm going to go with War of the Worlds. And basically, I know I've talked about people falling for Hoaxes and Cons before. I kind of like semi-fell for this one as well because I wasn't paying attention too much. So I kind of like, I'm still that person that falls for these kind of things. People tuned into a reading of War of the Worlds and took it quite literally, causing mass panic about an alien invasion. But apparently the whole thing, that whole situation is a complete hoax. I thought it was a bit of a prank from radio, kind of playing a prank on people. Yeah. But apparently what it was newspapers trying to discredit radio. And then I'll go on to my second one, which is the Zanzig Code. I hope I'm pronouncing that first bit right.
I love this one too.
These guys are great. They're a Danish couple who did sort of mentalist demonstrations, had everyone believing that they actually had psychic powers. They've fooled lots of people, but famously Arthur Conan Doyle, which I know that we've had a bit of a chat about this week in terms of some of the stuff that he believed.
Yeah, we'll just start it by we'll just preface this by being like, Arthur's a sucker, and we'll pick it up another time.
Yes, and you have to check in with us to find out more about that.
This is becoming Q lore. Arthur Conan Doyle was the most gullible, clever person on the planet.
They were basically doing mind reading on stage, but they had perfected and refined a system of communicating that seemed undetectable to the average spectator. It's one of the sort of all-time greats in terms of like the mind reading acts, and it's quite a famous staple one. Yeah, I think those two are really good. I enjoyed reading more into them. The War of the Worlds one was quite I was kind of sad because I was like, oh, that would be such a good prank. But it's just like these angry newspaper owners probably just kind of trying to ruin someone's day.
My two. So I've gone for a really traditional Hoaxes and Con one that I think everybody already knows. So I've gone for DB Cooper.
Nice.
Because it's still a story I adore. Like, if anyone doesn't know it, it's a guy who basically, like, hijacked a plane and stole loads of money and jumped off in a parachute, and then nobody found him, but they found the money. Where did he go?
Nice.
DB Cooper, where are you?
Yeah, they found it, like, washed up on a beach or something, and it just had,
yeah,
like,
but
all,
no
all
DB Cooper.
Something, yeah.
And my second one is the Fox sisters. So the Fox sisters ultimately like launched the spiritualist movement because people thought they were talking to the dead through like clicks and taps and things like that. But they weren't. They were like cracking bones in their ankles. But how would you hear that in a theatre? They like filled auditoriums and stuff where people come in to like,
no little
see them talk to the dead.
Days, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been horrible.
They did admit that they'd made it all up, but by that point in time, the spiritualist movement had gained so much momentum that they couldn't be like, oh, sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. That's not true.
Those girls lied, so we better stop. They were like, no.
No.
Shall we move on to our decks?
Yes, we shall.
If anyone's popping in for the first time in this episode, Joe and I challenge each other to a 5-minute deck. So please don't be expecting high standards.
Yeah.
The Hoaxes and Cons is a tricky one because last time with Going Under, we could both pretty much do like almost mono album decks.
Yeah, quite substantial decks for the collection.
Yeah, you cannot do that for Hoaxes and Cons.
No. It'd be a weird bunch of cards, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Joe?
Yes, I'd love to. So I've filled up my first 8 slots with Hoaxes and Con cards. That I've either seen out and about in other people's decks. So Charles Ponzi's been one that goes in quite a lot. I Maiden is also another one. And a few new releases that have come out recently. So we got World Worlds and Snake Oil. At that point, I had to find a bit of an out from the collection because I was like, I spent so long like looking at these
too
cards.
Deep.
Yeah, I saw that Lady Hope story. It played next to Charles Darwin. This card gains 14. I was like, right, let's go to Charles.
Yep.
Charles Darwin is quite a strong card for a science deck. So I went with Awesome Aviation's collection, and I had to really fill out quite quickly. So I went with Bessie Coleman, Barnstorming, Amelia Earhart, and Zeppelin, which is actually one of my favourite cards. Obviously Zeppelin works really well with hydrogen, so that was like another out from that collection, but also I kind of need to try and wrap it up as soon as I can. Someone on the team said that I really fancied doing a Penguins deck, and that was like, I had 30 seconds left, and it's like, oh yeah, Alison said do penguins, you'll love them. I just typed in penguins. I was like, okay, yellow-eyed penguin and macaroni penguin, because macaroni penguin sounds like a funny name. But in all this, I've just gone to Charles Darwin, trying to get the science boost, and not put any Life and Land cards in there. So that's kind of made it all a bit redundant. But
in all fairness as well, I think DB Cooper would probably be pretty good with some of those aviation cards too.
Yeah,
because DB Cooper helps with them too. See,
Yeah.
this is why we give ourselves 5 minutes,
I know,
so that we
yeah.
don't have time to then sit and have this like, oh, maybe we should have done this.
It means that we can kind of like pass off our mistakes as just don't have time. It's not because we're not good at
time,
deck,
guys.
Oh no,
Such a
5 minutes. Oh, what can I do? It's actually really nice having a bit of a tangent off into other collections as well. So Hoax and Cons was brilliant to play with, and it's also quite fun to just go like science, aviation, down to it's quite fun way. So I always recommend a 5-minute deck build to see what we can come up with and try out a few league games, and you might actually come up with something pretty cool.
No, that looks really good.
It's really fun. I like this one. We can do Hoaxes
I did
and
not
Cons.
go down a science route.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Oh
Okay,
yes, of course.
So this is how I actually build a deck in normal gameplay. This actually looks a lot like a deck that I have saved. It's just called Weird Spooky Stuff.
Yes, it does.
So I'm going to start with my Hoaxes and Cons cards, and then you'll see how I got there. So I've thrown in Harry Houdini. I love the picture of Harry Houdini because it's so... Hello, Harry. Good lord.
How are you doing, Harry? Yeah.
I've put Fox Sisters in there, which give an occult boost, which then leads to the second half of my deck, which I will go over. So about 2 or 3 of my Hoaxes and Cons cards have like a, if you've played cards from this collection or with this name, you get a big boost. So that's awesome. I'm going to say strategy in loose air quotes.
Yeah, definitely.
I've put in the Cottingley Fairies. I love the story of the Cottingley Fairies. It's absolutely wild. I don't know if you know it, Joe, but basically it's like these two little girls who took photographs of themselves with cardboard cutouts of fairies. You know, those, or like paper cutouts, very, like, they're not real. No matter how you slice this, they're not real. Took these pictures, and then we're like, oh, look, we found fairies. And, like, the whole country were like, oh my god, these girls found fairies! So everyone believed them. So that's my hoaxes and cons. And then I accidentally tripped up and put too many occult cards in. I'm pretty sure one of these cards, it was like, if you have 3 occult cards, and I was like, how about 6?
Yes. Now I can do all occult.
I know. So as I said, I've got the devil, I've put in voodoo doll, Ouroboros, I can't say it right, but that's such a cool card. I just really love it. I love the look of it. It's one that gives you stuff as you, like, if you leave it, it builds up. And then when you play it, it loses a chunk, but when you get it back, it gives you back some of that. So I really, really love this card.
I can imagine when you were putting that, the one that links the occult, you're like, oopsie, like, oops.
It's exactly what it was. How did that happen? And I've put electronic voice phenomena in here because it's if you have no science cards, your occult cards get a boost. And there was no worry of me ever putting a science card in here. So I was like, yep.
Okay, that's fine.
I love this card as well because I hadn't started very long when we were coming up with the Halloween cards.
Yeah.
And the Ghost Hunters toolkit was absolutely my fault. So that's why EVP and all the other ones we had around that, they were my fault.
I think that was also like the first time we went for like a themed quarter pounder now, isn't it? Like now, so it's nice to have those kind of little, almost like mini collections going in every.
I know, I really like that about the Thursday packs now. I love that Thursday packs are themed because they're so fun.
Yeah,
they're like fun to come up with. The art's always cool.
Yeah.
And you just get such a thrill when you get one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, EVP's in there because I love a scary fake ghost voice on a recording.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so that's mine. So lots of spooky stuff, some fairies, and the devil.
Yeah, definitely. The devil's footprints actually sounds super scary. It's
really
like
does.
footprints in the snow, but it was like apparently people were reporting having poo prints on their roof. I think that's why it kind of like sparked a bit of a horrible world. I mean,
I think it's a really creepy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be Santa. It could be Santa. Reindeer.
It could be the Krampus.
It could be not the Krampus.
Could it be the Krampus?
I don't think they're very familiar with the Krampus in Devon, but we'll
He's our best pal up here, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was mine. It was lots of cards to expect from me. But I'm really pleased with this deck. The only thing I think I've shot myself in the foot with is I think the Devil and Harry Houdini might be problematic together because one locks until round 5 and then the one just locks forever. So if I end up with them, I don't have choices anymore.
Yeah, you're stuck,
So yeah, that might have been stupid, but we only had 5 minutes. Cool. Yeah, that was Hoaxes and Cons.
Yeah, it's great. I like doing this one. I kind of wish we could do another one. I guess we could do a follow-up if we do have any, because the cards that come in, we can just talk about them as a whole episode themselves, because there's always so much to talk about.
I know. I think that's the really fun thing about these is that every card is a story.
Yeah.
Like, it was really hard picking because part of me was like, we need to keep the podcast at a reasonable length.
Yeah, we can't
because
go
I
over
could. I put the Davenport brothers in mine and didn't even talk about it, so I'll save that for next time we do Hoaxes and Cons.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, we'd love more suggestions from you guys. Like,
whether it's like any staple cards that you want us to throw around, because sometimes it's nice working off one card and seeing where each person goes. So maybe if anyone had a single card, it could be any card. Make it at least have an ability. Don't make it a
blank one that
we can't work very much with.
I'm going to wrap us up with a follow-up Harry Houdini fact. Because Harry Houdini was like, spiritualist mediums are the worst. Him and his wife Bess made an agreement that whatever one of them died first, they would try a seance to see if they could communicate with each other to prove whether or not the psychics were telling the truth. They had like a code, and it was Rosabelle believes, so whatever one of them died first had to come back and Ouija board that to the other one or whatever, or through a medium, so that they could use it to be like, look, see.
The final act of the debunking.
Yeah. But I think that's really clever because it means that no spiritualist mediums or psychics or whatever could be like, oh, I've got Harry Houdini on the, the ghost line here because he had a code word he would use, so surely not.
Yeah, you could never, never fraudulently become Harry Houdini in the afterlife.
Yep. But Bess did this for 10 years. She did a decade of seances on, I think they're on Halloween.
Wow.
I think he died on Halloween, right?
Did he? Oh, wow.
I might be making that bit up.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Somebody fact check me.
Yeah.
And after a decade, Bess decided that was enough and said 10 years is long enough to wait for any man, which I just think is such a badass.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I love it. Well
I'm
done,
done
Bess.
now. Yeah, well done, Bess.
Yeah.
Take your hats off to you. Oh, great.
So on that note, I've been Emma.
And I've been Joe.
And as always, keep it cute.
Keep it cute.